the life of a fisherman you wouldn't understand. Something you can't feel on dry land. Gotta get your arms way up in a cage and set the hook on smallmouth bass, and then you'll understand. Gotta get your hands on a Shimano reel and a G Loomis rod. I bet you like what you feel. Step on the deck, give it a whirl. Hello, welcome to my world. What's going on, all you Facebook Live and YouTube Live fishing freaks? Let me know if you guys can hear me out there. I'm having some technical difficulties here on the my audio. I think I can. You can hear me all right. I believe so. If you guys don't care to let me know if you can hear me out there, I would I would love it if you could do that, please. Let's see. Let me make sure that I have the stuff set up here in my audio. I believe I do. Yep, says that you guys can hear me, which is great. Oh, cool. Thank them Wayne boys in the house. What's going on, fellows? Guys, thanks for joining this episode of On Another Line. Got a lot of stuff to talk about, including something that I am really proud about, which is right here. If you know what this is, you'll know that these things have fallen off the face of the earth. Matter of fact, right here is the last one that I own that was built by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Greg Drown himself, owner of the Tackle Box. Far as I know, nobody else builds buzz baits similar to this. There's a lot of intricacies that go on this stuff. As far as if you notice, there's an angle here. It comes off the head. It's not just flat. The blade is different compared to the size of head and things that are there. But this head that was part of the buzz bait is something that hasn't been made in a lot of years, as far as I know. One of those being a do-it mold. And it could have been made by somebody else, but this is the exact same head that's on here that I've found a mold probably from the 80s. I was lucky enough to get my hands on a mold that is the exact replica of the one that Greg used. There was a lot of rumors and stuff going around that I actually had his molds, and that is not true. But I do have some expertise that he has given me over the years to create this buzzbait. A couple of things. Before we get started this evening, I'm going to be talking about it a lot today, but I am going to share something here really quick with you guys. Let's see here. Let me find this file really quick, guys, and then I'm going to share it with you. So the third annual Spring Valley High School bass fishing team has they're having a fishing swap meet. Again, you've heard me talking about it for the past couple weeks. January 18th, which is coming upon us here soon. We got about 2 months before this happens, so you got plenty of time to make plans to be there. The reason that I want to talk about this, one, is the fact that it's a great thing for the Spring Valley High School bass team. This is a fundraiser for them. And I like to go out and support those guys as much as possible. Bunch of great kids. Kevin, the coach / dad, is an awesome guy. They're having this thing here. They're having $10 vendor tables. They're having door prizes, but you have to be present to win. $5 to get in if you are under 8 years old and watching this. Tell your parents to bring you. I don't imagine there's any less than 8-year-old kids watching this, but if there are, there's some contact information on here. Again, you can reach out to Kevin, Dick, or any of these guys that are on the screen here. And this is January 18th, 8 to 4, $10 each vendor tables. The reason that I want to mention that is the fact that I will be there in the way of having a bunch of stuff there um, for sale. One of those being I'm not calling it the Little Squeak. This is not, I'm not taking Greg's name. I wanted to call it the Phoenix because it rose from the ashes, but the Phoenix boat line pretty much got that wrapped up. So I was looking around, and I think I'm going to call this thing the Firebird, similar to a Phoenix, but it rises from the ashes, meaning that this thing has been dead since December of last year. As far as I know, you can't buy any of these from anyone else except for myself and Greg. There's probably somebody else on the planet that makes these things that just doesn't know they make them. But a couple of things that these things are going to be really cool is the fact that these things are going to first be on sale at that show. So if you want to get your hands on the Firebird, or AKA the Little Squeak Buzzbait, which is here, again, this is something that has gone to the wayside, but I've now, kind of resurrected it. If you want to get your hands on these things, they will be at that tackle show for the first time ever. I'm for sale as after Greg has made them. One of the things I do want to talk about is that my baits are actually going to be a little bit more expensive than Greg's. Greg uses what I assume is an eagle claw hook. It looks similar to an eagle claw bend. I could not tell you if that is 100% the truth. It looks like an eagle claw. Mine are going to come one of two ways. It's going to have a mustad hook like this one right here, which is a round bend mustad, uber sharp. I mean, these things are stupid sharp. In the term, or in the biz, we call them sticky sharp, right? No, it's not like that. I mean, in my opinion, it's way sharper than that other hook that was in this one. I know why he put this one in there, because it worked for 100 years. It's cheaper than these, and he was able to sell these things for about $5 a piece. I believe they were $4.99. Mine are going to be about $5.50 a piece. That's going to give you a premium hook. I'm going to be having a lot of different skirts, black, white and chartreuse, ghost, white and gray, white and green. A lot of different things. They'll be there. A couple other things that I will have for sale there. Poured up a million of these Do It hybrid grass jigs. I really like the way this one turned out, man. It's got like a white and green skirt. Also got these got a couple rattles on this one. Gonna have a ton of Greg Drown style spinner baits. I've been pointing those as well. I got about 75 million of these underspins. This is a 1/4 ounce. I have 1/4 ounce and 3/8 is the only two sizes that I have. They're all white. They all have different colored eyes. This has red, obviously. This one has a hammered willow leaf blade. Some of them have smooth. Some of them have brown, or I'm sorry, copper. Some of them have bronze. I literally have probably 200 of these things. I don't know if I'll have, that many there, because they don't sell that well, to be honest with you. That's why I got 200 of them. But yeah, so those are coming up very soon. If you guys are looking, January, man, it's going to be cold. Hop in the truck, head down there to Spring Valley High School, check them out. It's cheap to get in. I'll be there, have some of this stuff for sale. We can shoot the breeze there. With that being said, now a second ago, I just posted a video to my YouTube or to my Facebook page talking about a YouTube video that I released yesterday. And it's something that I've been doing a lot of research in the past about, and that is diving into the lithium game. Now, I'm kind of hesitant to go straight lithium in my boat because I have so much weight in my boat in front of the console, and it is an absurd amount up there. I don't want to take rods and reels and stuff out of my boat. If I went straight lithium in the back, I'm losing. Right now, I have 3 Odyssey PCM 2150s in there, lead acid AGM batteries. They weigh like 72 pounds a piece. So I'm looking at 210 pounds a piece, 210 pounds of lead acid batteries back there. So that's like me. That's another human being sitting back there. offsetting that weight of all that. So I got a 15-inch graph, I got a 12-inch graph, and a black box for an LVS 34 live scope system up front, plus 35 rods and probably 1,000 pounds of lead and tungsten. So I'm trying to, you know, I can't figure out how I want to go about this, but one of the things that I did just pick up through Malone's Marine in Ironton, as you guys know, we're a big proponent here of Chris and Malone's down in Ironton. They've been nothing but good to us, and especially me, over the last few years. I mean, as long as I've known Chris, first off, that dude can flat whack them. The dude, I think you can catch him in a mud hole with a broomstick. He knows where they're at. He knows how to catch them. Awesome guy. Got a really cool thing going on down there at Malone's Marine. Has a ton of different things. Icon boats, Phoenix, as you guys know. That's probably what I'm going to jump into if I can sell my boat, which, by the way, my boat is for sale. If you're interested, let me know. But we'll talk about what I just added to my boat in just a second. But went down to Malone's. We were talking about the lithium battery deal. And I've been looking at a lot of different lithium batteries, and I wanted to buy one through Chris, one, to keep my money local, and two, I wanted to, you know, spend my money with somebody that's helped me out over the years, and that would be, you know, Malone's Marine. And I went down there. We had a long conversation about it. We were texting back and forth, and he told me the brands that he actually repped. Ionic was one of them. Powerhouse. I want to think there was a couple others that he may have mentioned. There was like 3 or 4 that he can get, and we were kind of talking and beating the numbers around. And I actually opted to get a Powerhouse lithium. It is a 160 amp hour cranking / deep cycle electronic style battery. So I've done some math. So if you guys are unfamiliar with how you actually find out how long things will run on an amp hour style battery like lithium, for example, my battery is 160 amp hours, which is absurd. We'll talk about that in just a second. But my electronics, if I run all 3 of my graphs, my black box, all 4 of my live oil pumps, and my YOLO stick at the same time, according to my calculations, if the manufacturer's websites of all of those products are legit and they're actually working like they should, I should be able to run all 3 graphs, my black box for the LVS 34, 4 live well pumps, a YOLO stick, and still be able to charge my battery for 15 and a half hours. That is absolutely unheard of. I mean, it's crazy. Like, that's the type of stuff that, like, it's stuff that I don't even think it's crazy. One of the things about lithium that really worried me was the fact that when lithium batteries go dead, there's no slow death as far as, like, if it, you know, like if you have a lead acid battery and the battery is like weak, meaning that you've ran your electronics all day, and you turn the motor over, you could probably sometimes get lucky enough to have enough juice to spin that motor over. Normally, when a lithium battery goes dead or gets flatlined like that, it is totally dead. You don't get any juice out of it. That's because they have a battery management system in there that keeps the batteries from going, into 0 voltage, which would cause you to have to, like, add voltage to it. You basically have to jump it with another battery to get the battery management system to come back alive or come back awake. So that's one of the things I looked at, and that was the reason I went with a giant 160 amp hour battery. And I did that because Powerhouse Lithium, which, by the way, you know, I'm not bragging about this by any means. I think that Powerhouse Lithium is probably one of the most expensive ones on the planet. And that's not because I have money like that to spend. It's not, to be honest with you, it is not like that at all. I wanted to spend the money one time and be done with it. Powerhouse Lithium has roughly a 15-year prorated warranty based on a starting battery. I think it's 10 years for the deep cycle trolling motor batteries. It's 5 years, I think, no questions asked. And then from 5 to 10, they will repair it for you for free. And if you want to buy a new battery in between that time, they'll give you like a 40% discount on one, which the only reason that I would see that you would need to buy a new battery instead of wait on them to repair it is the fact that on their website, it says it takes 6 to 8 weeks for a turnaround time. So if you want to go fishing or you're fishing a big tournament and you have to have that battery, you might have to spend the dough. But if you have the time to wait, it's going to be free up to 10 years. It's prorated. So there is basically almost a 15-year warranty on that, which I really like. But one of the biggest features of the Powerhouse Lithium that sold me, especially on the 160 amp hour battery, was the fact that it is the only battery that I know of. There could be others. I mean, I've done some research, but I think it's the only battery on the market today that has an emergency start battery backup built into the battery. Right now, previously to this year, I was carrying a 15-foot set of giant, really thick jumper cables in my boat just because that's all I had. I then bought a NOCO jump pack, which, by the way, guys, if you're looking for a gift for the Christmas season, I have no affiliation with the company. Trust me, I would love it if I did, but I don't. A NOCO battery charger. It's a jump pack. They're like $200 or something, but I'm telling you, they are well worth every single penny that they are. You can give them to your kids, elderly parents. You keep one in every vehicle you own. It's a great deal. I've literally jumped like 5 or 6 different vehicles this year with my jump pack, and none of them have been mine, which is great. But so I had that in my boat, took the jumper cables out, put the jump pack on my boat, and then, you know, it's not giant. I mean, it takes up a little bit of space in my boat, but let's face it, every little bit of nook and cranny that they have in their boat's going to be jam full of like jigs and anything you can get in there. And that's weight that I'm adding because it is a battery pack. It is lithium, but it is a battery pack, and it's going to take up some space in my boat. So when I was diving into this, you know, this is a very extreme amount of money that I'm spending on something that I'm going to use. I use my boat a lot, obviously. I use it, it seems like 2 to 3 days a week, a lot of times, maybe more than that in the summer. So I'll get my money out of it. But when I was looking at the prices initially, it scared me away because of the price of that Powerhouse compared to like an Ionic or something that has, you know, great reviews and things. Because the 160 amp hour battery that I was actually looking at is it's almost a $1,400 battery. It's like $1,399, which is, I mean, it's absolutely it's unheard of for one battery. I was like, I can't pay $1,500 for a battery. There's just no way I can do that. So I was talking to Chris. We were looking at it. They actually had a Black Friday sale, saved me an absolute absurd amount of dough. But I now have the Powerhouse Lithium 160 amp hour. It is their cranking battery. So again, 160 amp hours are going to allow me to stay on the water for at least 15 plus hours. Let's face it, I'm not going to be on the water that long ever, but that is really cool that I can do that. And that's running everything that I have in my boat in full blast. That's four live oil pumps, a Yola stick, 2 Solix 15 Gen 3s, a 12-inch Garmin, a LiveScope black box, and running the LVS 34 LiveScope system, which is, I mean, that is absolutely crazy. Yeah, Mark, high roller. No, fell into a pile of got lucky. The reason that I actually bought the lithium battery was that JR and I finished 3rd place, I think, a month and a half ago in a tournament. We won, you know, $400 a piece, I think. And then I've done some work on the side. I have my Part 7 license for drone aerial photography. So I've been working for a realtor company in Ironton here and taking aerial photographs of the houses they're trying to sell. And it's been pretty lucrative, to be honest with you. So that's why I have it there. But no, it was pretty good. So Dale says he's got Ionic. Nice, man. That's awesome. And that's the thing, guys. You're never going to hear me bashing another company. I know there's a lot of people on here. I think Mark probably fishes Ionic. I know that there are other people. Matter of fact, I think Eric Moore is sponsored by him as a big part of the company. Ionic makes great stuff. Powerhouse this is the first time I've ever dealt with them. I'll be able to give you guys some more information and more realistic comments going down the road, because right now I've literally just installed it in my boat. But one thing I will tell you that I did not take into consideration is that the battery that I bought is a 31 series battery. Well, I just assumed that a 31 series battery was the same size all the way around, and that is not the truth. 31 series battery is the footprint. So like the square inch or square footage that you would have at the base of the battery is the same, meaning that if you buy a 31 series battery, it's going to fit in a 31 series tray. However, what I didn't take into consideration was the height of those batteries. I didn't even look at the dimensions of that battery, guys. I didn't even think anything about it. I was like, it's a 31 series, it'll fit. When it shows up, Chris looked at me and he's like, Tyler, he said, this is the absolute heaviest lithium battery that I've ever had delivered at this shop, without a doubt. He said, it feels like it's twice as heavy as most other batteries that are lithium. So I cracked it out of the package when I got home and immediately noticed that it was a lot taller. And, in the Z axis, it was really tall. And I got very, very, very lucky that it fit in my boat. I had about 2 inches of space to move my battery tray forward. The way my boat is set up is back towards the motor. I guess what you would call the splash well there. Underneath the splash well, it kind of, dips down, obviously, to have that splash well there. And then underneath that is a metal tray where my batteries are at. Well, the 31 series, the normal 31 lead acid batteries fit right in there. And there was about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch to maybe 3/8 of an inch between the top post and the top of that splash well, or the bottom of that splash well. Well, when I put that, the 160 amp hour powerhouse next to that lead acid battery that I took out, it is a substantial amount difference. When I'm talking, it's at least an inch taller, if not an inch and a half taller than a normal 31 series battery. And when I saw that, my heart instantaneously dropped. I was like, oh no. I was like, I spent all this cash on this thing, got it on a Black Friday deal. They'll probably exchange it or whatever, but it's going to take me probably weeks or months to get this thing. Luckily, I only had to move my battery tray about an inch forward towards my console and remount it, and it fit in there. And I was so lucky that happened. So if you're going to buy batteries, take it from me. Don't do what I did. Don't just assume that all 31 series batteries are the same, because they are as far as like footprint, but the height of them may be different. What's up, Tyler Williams? How you doing, buddy? Got a couple of things coming up here lately. Again, we talked about the Spring Valley tackle or the swap meet, but we do have the G Loomis tournament coming up this Sunday at it's down at Lake Cumberland. I still think there's time to get registered for that. If you are, so how do you get registered for the G Loomis tournament? It's a free tournament. You don't have to pay anything to get in it at the tournament site. There is a pre-tournament meeting that you have to be in, and I saw that Drew posted something about it earlier. I'm going to read what he says. There was supposed to be a pre-tournament meeting, and there still is going to be a pre-tournament meeting, but I think it was going to be at Diego's, and I believe that place is closed down. So pre-tournament meeting was scheduled for Diego's in Somerset, but due to an unforeseen closure, we're moving the meeting to Lake Cumberland Grill House, which is in Somerset also. They will have food available for purchase. One of those, you have to be, it's a team tournament. I don't think you can fish it by yourself. Matter of fact, I know you can't. You have to have 2 people in your boat. And the deal is that you have to buy a participating, or have bought a participating G Loomis rod through a participating dealer in Kentucky between October 1st and December 6th. So in the last 2 months, if you've bought one of those in the last, month and a half, 2 months, you are eligible to fish this tournament. Again, it's December 8th, 2024. Going out of the Burnside ramp at Lake Cumberland. That is a definite major change. Normally, they go out of Conley Bottom. There is another big tournament going on at Conley Bottom that day. So they moved it to Burnside. From what I understand, I think that the Bradley Roy tournament is the day before that on Saturday, going out of the same Burnside ramp. I'd say there's going to be quite a bit of people there. Normally some hammers in there. They pay first place all the way back to 15th place. First place is $1,750 cash plus 2 Conquest 843s, which are $775 each rod. So you're going to make, you're looking at $3,500 there for first place if you win that, cash and prizes. Second place is $1,100 cash and 2 NRX 853C. I assume that's NRX Plus because they don't have NRX line anymore. So it's going to be an NRX Plus 853C. Those are $650 each retail. And then fourth place is going to be so third place is at 650 and 2 GLX 853Cs. Those are 550 each retail. Fourth place, $200 cash plus 2 IMX Pros 853Cs. Those are $380 a piece rods. Fifth place is $100 cash and 2 IMX Pros, or 2 IMX Pro 812C. So it's 81 inches, 2 power, $400 each is what those run. And you're going to be looking at 6th through 15th places. Gets 2 GCX 853Cs. They're $260 a piece. So they're going to pay basically $500 all the way back to 15th place. And the great thing about that is that there's no entry fees. The only thing you have to do is buy a G Loomis rod between, I guess there's still time. So it says December 6th, which is going to be this week. If you Borders is a participating dealer, if you want to get your hands on a new Loomis rod for Christmas and want to have the opportunity to fish something like that at down at Lake Cumberland, definitely do that. And I'd say there's other dealers in Kentucky, like Cane Pole, I think is one down around Lexington. There's a lot of different ones, but if you're in my area, definitely go over and talk to Brad at Borders. He'll get you hooked up. Yeah, Brad, you're not wrong, man. I started out fishing very cheap Shimano and G Loomis stuff way back in the day just because I can afford it. Luckily, I've been affiliated with Shimano and G Loomis for the better part of like 8-9 years now, and I have amassed a crazy amount of rods in my boat, and I normally sell them every year. I usually just like wholesale, clean house, buy new every year. Because I like to buy new rods every year to try to keep up with the newest technology that Shimano and G Loomis has, to keep my knowledge base up, to help you guys out buy what you want to buy with the amount of money that you have to spend. I've yet to find especially a Loomis rod, even all the way down to that GCX lineup. They're really good, but there is a definite distinct advantage to buying higher end rods. And like now's the time, guys, to really dive into understanding why rods and reels are so expensive. I think it goes to say without the technology that goes into them, but the components and stuff that, for example, G Loomis uses, the guide train on an NRX Plus alone, just the guides are like $250. And that's what I've been told from people at Loomis. So that could be, biased a little bit. Maybe I'm sure they're getting a cheaper version. They're probably meaning if you and I went out and bought those guys, it'd be $250. But it's the feel and it's the fit and finish that you're getting. And even Shimano, like down to a certain extent, like you can't go wrong with their rods. Like I don't think that any of their rods are bad, but you're definitely going to get what you pay for. And I have, let's see, I want to think I have 9 NRX Plus between casting and spinning. I have probably 8 or 9 IMX Pros. And I have I have NRX Plus or IMX Pros in the Loomis line. I don't have any other ones than that. And then if it's not a bottom contact rod, like a jig or a drop shot or a shaky head or something like that, then I'm not going to be, that's bottom contact. I'm going to spend the money and get that NRX Plus. They're expensive, but they're worth every penny. I'm not lying to you guys. You can take my word for it if you want to. But if I were you and I was going to be throwing something that's moving, I would go to some of those lower Loomis products, the GCX, which now replace the E6X, as Henline was talking about here. They're great rods. The only difference that you're going to find between these rods is that the components and things are a little bit heavier. They're basically using the same graphite and things, different technology, different wraps and things, but you're getting the same hand-built, one at a time quality that you're used to from G Loomis in Washington State. And I cannot speak badly for Shimano reels. Like the other side of that, when I'm talking about the rods that I have, the other side of that situation from the Loomis side is I have pretty much strictly only Poison Adrena rods if they're not Loomis. and they are not the most top end in the line. They were the end of the lineup of Shimano rods that you can get in the United States. There used to be in Japan only, you could get it in the JDM market, and it was the Poison Ultima. They have now ported that over into America, and I don't own one of those just for the simple fact is they are $900. That is, even for me, an idiot that spends a lot of money on bass fishing all the time, that is absurd. Shimano reels, man. That's what we got. That's what got me fishing Shimano to start with. I'm talking back in the old days when Greg Drown and the Tackle Box used to be down there across from the Knights of Columbus in Ironton, Ohio. It was like in this old house. I bought a Shimano FX, which are still made today. The old dual handle deals. The handles were, split apart from each other. The thing was probably like $19 at the time, and they're not much more expensive than that now, probably cheaper. But I bought that thing, loved it. Wish I still had that thing. Have no clue where it's. I've left that somewhere at a lake, or somebody has stolen it out of the back of a truck. I don't know. But then I started fishing, and I started getting a little bit more money, and I started getting that adult money. The money that you could just do what you wanted to with, because it was scary. You're like, holy crap! I actually have this adult money, and I can start buying it. And then again, I was buying stuff I could afford then, like I was fishing the crap out of those green Corrados. Absolutely amazing reels. And then since then, again, being affiliated, with Shimano and G Loomis now, I have the ability to fish some of the most super high end rods and reels that Shimano owns and makes. And I don't believe there's anything bad about them, but I will tell you that you're going to get what you pay for with Shimano reels. If you buy a lower end Shimano reel, it's still going to be a great reel. It's going to last you, your lifetime, but it's not going to be as smooth. It's not going to cast as far. It's not going to be as light. It's not going to be as rigid. The drag system is not going to be as good. You got to figure that all this technology that they have to take some kind of, hit somewhere to make these things budget friendly reels. But they're still great reels. But when you step up into like the Metanium, right? The Shimano Metanium is one of my favorite reels on the planet, and with good reason. This thing's $500, right? If 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, even, if you'd have told me that I would own Shimano Metanium reels, I would have told you you're out of your ever loving mind. $550 for a reel is absurd. I'll tell you, it's totally crazy. But I will tell you one thing, and I believe this to the bottom of my heart: if you fish one and you can afford higher end Shimano reels, you'll never go back. If you can buy one every 3 years, they're going to be that solid for the rest of your life. It's an investment. Oh yeah, I'll let you know. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Before you do anything stupid, call me or text me tomorrow. Yep, Brad, you're right. So it's crazy. Shimano reels. I've been watching a lot of stuff right now, trying, because I'm going to make a video here soon talking about a buyer's guide. I always make buyer's guides for you guys, to be honest with you. It's not for you. I know you guys know what you want. I usually make these buyer guides for fishing and put them out on social media in hopes that your significant other, your wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, etc., will see this and be like, okay, well, I got $300 to spend. I'm going to go buy a Shimano Poison Adrena if they're on sale or whatever. Or I'm going to buy them this line or whatever, just to give, and to be honest with you, I'm not being sexist here, but it's to give females ideas what to buy people like you and I. Because if I were in that same situation, let's just say that Misty, my girlfriend, wanted a purse, I would have no clue. No clue. I had no clue what it was. But if somebody out there in the female world of that fashion stuff would make this and I saw it on Facebook, I would be more apt to buy something like that, knowing that it came from somebody that was talking about it. Now, that's kind of what social media influencing is, and you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. But I'm working on trying to work on this gift guide. And I was looking at a lot of different, not just Shimano reels, because I don't want to just like pigeonhole somebody into just buying Shimano. Obviously, I want Shimano. I want you to buy Shimano, but let's face it, If you buy Shimano, it doesn't really do anything for me, right? I'm promoting a product that I enjoy and I use. It's not because they're paying me to tell you to fish it. There are other great reel and rod manufacturers out on the planet. You will never hear me bashing rods and reels because I feel like in the end of the game, guys, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you're using. It's about being out on the water. I don't care if you're throwing Zebco 33s with like a Rhino rod and you're out there whacking them on a Sluggo. You know, do what you got to do. Like, I'm going to give you a high five and say, congratulations, you stacked up 35 pounds, which is, you know, crazy. Speaking of 35 pounds, I don't know if you guys follow Randy Blockhead. I don't follow him that much, but I watched his video today, and he was talking about, he's still harping about forward-facing sonar and all that stuff, which is, it's beating a dead horse. You're not going to get rid of it. People are going to use it. I did post the other day that I think that it's going to hurt the crappie population in the grand scheme of things, because literally you can go out and find a school of crappie and sit there and catch every one of those crappie. It's not like bass where they're constantly moving. Crappie is staying on place usually in this time of year, so you could sit there and drop a crappie jig on there and just absolutely catch every one of them if you wanted to. But with that being said, he was talking about how Guntersville, they had a Black Friday tournament down there, and they weighed in a 35-pound sack, and there was like 30 bags that were like over 30 pounds, and like 25 pounds you didn't even sniff the money. And he was going on about saying that was going to be the downfall of bass fishing, because all these people need technology to catch these uber bags and all that stuff. And, you know, it is what it is. I agree with him too in some things. I think it's cheating. I'd use it. Am I cheating? Probably. You're not seeing those fish. You know, like I said, I say this every time, is like, it's changed the way I fish. To be honest with you, I have prided myself over the last year of owning the live scope system to not go out and strictly live scope. I'm not going to go out there with a sonar minnow and, you know, do this for 8 hours a day. I'm just not doing it. But if I'm fishing an area and I can scan a tree or something and see if there's any activity in that tree, it does help me out in that aspect. Another aspect that it does help me out is finding fish that are deeper than I normally would fish without that technology. And here's what I mean by that. Down at Lake or at Dell Hollow, if you're not scoping, you're not catching them down there. I'm just telling you. It's just the way it is. Especially if you're in a tournament, you're going to get your freaking face mashed in by these guys that are scoping. So that is basically the only time that I'll just stick a sonar minnow in my hand and go try to catch them, is going to be at Dell Hollow. But Kyle and I, last November, we fished the Kentucky Bass Nation regional qualifier. Or it was actually the championship, the state championship down in Dell Hollow. And we went down there and we were catching fish in 80 plus feet of water with live scope. He has active target or whatever the Lowrance version of that is. But we were seeing fish in 80 plus feet of water in the middle of channels, and we were catching those fish. Without that technology, I'm not even thinking about those fish. I don't even know they exist. They're totally gone. If they're not on the bank within the first 20 feet of water, I'm not fishing for them because I didn't have any idea that those fish were there. So does that give you an upper hand? Sure it does. But I thought it was funny that he was just talking about how it was just going to be the downfall of bass fishing, and because people are weighing in larger bags now. I just don't get it. You are not wrong, man. Again, I agree with some of the stuff he says. Like, I believe that it has changed the sport. It has changed the sport for me in a positive and a negative way. Again, I feel like that I look at my screen more than I should. I use my Solix to live or to down scan and side scan and find things and create. I can do that. I don't feel like that is anything different than you would have done 20 years ago. I think, I'm sure people probably thought about that the same way they do like a flasher. When a flasher come out that you could see how deep it was, and if you were really good at dialing that thing in, you could actually see if there was fish underneath you. I think people probably had that same opportunity to think about that when it was happening with the flasher. Now, are we talking about apples to apples here? Absolutely not. It's totally different. Obviously, I get that. But I do believe that it does have some negatives. I don't think that, it's as negative as everybody makes it seem. Are there more fish being caught? Probably. Are there fish being caught that have never been caught before? Probably. But again, I don't think it's going to ultimately hurt the population of fish, because one of the things about, if you think about before live scope, you would have 99% of all anglers that you fished a tournament. They would go pick a spot on a bank and they would go around the bank with a spinner bait, buzz bait, crankbait, Texas rig, jig, something, and they would beat that bank up all day long. They would fish for the first 20 yards of water from the bank out. And doesn't matter where you're at. So if you think about that, you have probably 80% of the lake that's never been touched by those people. Now, you will have those kind of outlier people that know a lake so good and they've used their sonar without forward facing sonar to find brush piles and stumps and rocks and, you know, like intricacies of the channel, and find these things and mark them where you're going to be seeing them fishing out in the channel or out in open water. You're going to have that, I believe, all the time. Now, today, this day and age, when you talk about forward facing sonar and you talk about all these electronics, it has now opened up 100% of the water for anglers. We're not all beating the banks up. Most people are beating the banks up still, probably 70%, maybe 80% of the anglers, especially in my area right now. There's not a ton of people that are scoping. There's maybe 50% of people, I would say, have scopes of the tournament anglers I fish. Like, you know, that's not scientific because I've never done a poll, but you know, I feel like that now lakes are fishing bigger than they ever have because we're being able to fish at 100% of those lakes as opposed to just the 10% of the bank that we were fishing before, or those local hammers that knew where some brush piles and things were. But it also allows me to figure out where fish are setting up. So if I'm scanning it for a fish and I see a fish that's, you know, suspended in 25 foot of water over 50 foot of water, then I might be more apt to look for a suspended fish as opposed to trying to figure out something where they're just hugged on the bottom. The biggest gripe I have of people that are totally against forward facing sonar is I would guarantee you more often than not that they think it's just like throwing dynamite in the water and the fish jump in the boat half dead. It's nothing like that. I kind of had that preconceived notion when I went out with the very first tournament of the year with my live scope. I'm like, I'm going to whack them today, man. There's no doubt. I got this thing and I can see them swimming. And there's nothing that'll piss you off more than seeing a fish and still not being able to catch it. Trust me. Ask me how I know. It's crazy. I agree with that too, Jared. And I think that's kind of why I'm sure you guys have read all the statistics and all the rule changes and stuff. But I think it's BASS, the college level. They, I think the high school and college level, they banned all forward facing sonar. And you know, I think that's a pretty good deal. I mean, it teaches anglers, especially that younger generation of angler, that you know, you don't have to be technologically savvy. I consider myself to be pretty technologically savvy. I mean, I guess I have to be. I teach technology, so I have to keep up with it daily. But somebody that is a farmer's son that knows how to plant the best bean field and get the most, you know, harvest and the most outcropping and all the stuff that they need to do to be a successful farmer, probably doesn't equate to being an absolute, you know, genius when it comes to electronics. So one, it levels the playing field. Two, it stops it from being a rich man's game. And that's what fishing has become. And I'm afraid that it is only going to get even more as a rich man's game, because bass boat prices are absurd. Electronics prices are absurd. Trolling motors prices are absurd. Battery prices are absurd. And if you like, literally, if a man were to have unlimited funds and put the best of the best of the best on the best of the best boat that they think they're going to have, you're looking at $130,000 rig. And that, like, I paid $55,000 for the first house I lived in. Like, there is no way as a high school teacher I could even think about doing that. But I think that's where that's going to go. And electronics, especially if you think about somebody in a high school tournament, if you rolled up and your dad was really wealthy, you were lucky enough to be born with a father or a mother or a grandpa that was super wealthy, that had that worked really hard and made their money, or maybe they made it the old-fashioned way, they inherited it. Anyway, they have this really well-off parent. And someone like myself, you know, when I grew up, both my parents divorced, and we had whatever I needed, I had, but we didn't have an abundance of anything. Like, there was a lot of times where, we would eat soup 3 or 4 days a week because dad had a slow day at work or slow week at work. I could imagine being a high school level angler and pulling up to a boat ramp and fishing out of like a 79 Bass Hawk with like a flasher on it on the dash with like a 40 pound thrust trolling motor with some batteries that I stole out of the car to make work, compared to somebody that comes rolling a $130,000 rig. Do I think you're in a disadvantage there? Yes and no. I feel like that, again, I've been to a tournament where I've literally had the best of the best equipment, and my boat is not the best of the best, but I feel like it's a decent boat. I got a really good, electronics and stuff on it now. But I got my rear end whipped by a dude throwing a Zebco 33, and he was throwing a freaking Greg Drown buzz bait on that thing, and he absolutely wore me out. Had like 20 pounds at Yatesville. Crazy. That was MLF. Thank you for that. Yep, bass. You can use it at every level. MLF. They or who? Oh, it was MPFL. They wholesale banned it. They're like, no, you can't use it. But I think somebody had to do that. Which, by the way, guys, I do want to talk about one thing. If this chair breaks on this show ever, it is going to be hilarious. But I might impale myself. So, like, if this chair breaks and like you don't see me get up, dial 911 if you don't care. This chair is freaking wonky, man. It's a brand new chair. I sit in it every day here in my home office, and it's about to freaking break. So. Right. So, and that's the thing, man. It's like it's not the fact that your dad or your parents or or whoever, you guys even don't want the best of the best. Obviously, we all do. Everybody wants the best of best for you. Everybody would like to see me rolling in the boat that I want with $100,000, rig and pulling it with $100,000 vehicle. That's just not in the cards for me. I'm a high school teacher. There is a certain point where you're throwing good money at bad when you're just continually trying to keep up with the Joneses. And I think that you're going to see that less and less now because there's less technology being produced now for bass fishing. And I think a lot of that is in fear that a lot of it's going to be banned. But one of the things that I think that, Brad and I at Borders have talked about it several times is that one of the things that I think that forward facing sonar has hurt in the long run is the production of baits. Used to be when ICAST would roll around. I used to go to ICAST all the time. I had an absolute blast. I would shoot videos there all week. I would meet new people, pick up new sponsors, be able to work the Shimano booth for a while. It was an awesome deal. I loved ICAST. You could go see some awesome baits. You would see new, improved. You would see stuff that you didn't even know existed. You didn't even know that it could exist. Something like the spider baits, or you're seeing all this stuff, and now the ICAST releases are forward-facing sonar heads that have better return, better hooks. They have something that will cause the bait to roll. It's going to be a forward-facing sonar bait, whether that be like the Jackal Drift Fry or maybe the what was the Rapala one, the Mooch Minnow or whatever. A lot of these baits are designed for forward-facing sonar. Now, it's killed the idea of small bait makers coming out with new stuff. You know what I mean? Like, how do you redesign a jig like this? Well, you're probably not going to be able to, because these things have been redesigned for years and years and years and years, and it's taken small people like Greg making this buzzbait here, that found something different. Even though this is still a buzzbait, we know what a buzzbait is. I couldn't tell you when the first one of these things were made. I'm sure way back in the day, probably 30s, 40s, 50s. Somebody said, I've seen bass hit stuff on top water. Let's put something on here. Shoot, they probably made this out of a pop can, figured this thing out. It worked great. And still here we are 70 years later using this thing. There are some intricacies with this that make it different. Now, when you go to ICAST, it's just how big of a deal can it be to steal somebody else's baits that's been popular in the past, or let's dive into the forward-facing sonar realm. You don't see any new cool baits. You don't see any great baits that are going to be, let's just say like Greg Hackney. Let's take him for example. That dude's known for being a pitching and flipping fool. That dude can absolutely wreck them with a flipping stick in his hand. The dude knows how to catch them. He is a close proximity, in your face pitching and flipping fool, and he absolutely wrecks them. There's no doubt about it. You don't see any baits dedicated to people like him, though. For the last 3 years, it's been nothing but forward-facing sonar. So it's made the fishing industry really stagnant, in my opinion, as far as the new baits, man. One of my favorite things to do is to go out, find a new bait, try to see if it works. I just bought a new jerk bait that Shimano just come out with called the Zoom Verno, and it's a 95 series. They have a World Minnow that is a 115. I've thrown this thing 100 times. Every time I go out, if it's wintertime, spring, fall, where I'm throwing jerk baits, I tie it on, catch. I've caught a few fish on it. It's not been a hugely popular bait for me. There are other jerk baits on the planet that I would much rather throw. One of those being a Megabass, right? We all know the Vision 110 has been like the end-all be-all for jerk baits over the last probably 10 years or so. I also like throwing the Re-Range 110, which has a really cool weight transfer system in it. But I would throw that World Minnow in it because I wanted it to catch fish. And it does catch fish, but it just doesn't catch fish like the other two that I mentioned. Now, step forward 1 year, World Minnow came out last year, as far as I know. This year, they come out with a jerkbait called the Zoom Verno, which is a 95 series. It's a smaller series. It's dang near half the size of that 115 World Minnow. So I went out, I went to Borders, picked it up, paid $18.99, just like you guys would have to. And I went out the very next day to Grayson, and I absolutely threw down on them with that bait, man. I think I caught like 27 bass in just a few hours. And I had like 14 pounds in my best 5, which was unheard of in Grayson. But it's stuff like that I think that I enjoy doing. I like going out and finding new baits and trying to catch fish on them. I probably have more baits that I haven't thrown in the last 5 years than anybody in the planet. I just out there trying to find new videos and trying to find new content. So that's why I'm rarely fishing tournaments anymore. If I'm fishing tournaments, I fish stuff that I know catches fish. So I'm not going to be diving into a lot of stuff that I'm not going to catch fish with. But the idea that I can't do that much anymore is pretty disheartening. And a lot of the baits that I have used in the past with great success are being discontinued like left and right. Like, for example, the Jackal Chunk Crawl is the end-all be-all Texas rig bait for me. I would, if they told me I had to pick one Texas rig bait for the rest of my life, it would be a watermelon pepper Jackal Chunk Crawl on a 3.5-inch size. That would be it. It would be end-all. That's what I would throw. I would either catch them or I wouldn't. They discontinued that. There was a lot of different baits that they discontinued, stuff that I've used, but it seems like they're making their focus a lot more narrow on FFS baits as opposed to baits that that are new and they're innovative. Yep, I agree with that, Jared. That's one of my favorite things too about it is the fact that it I like that now we can see the differentiation between what happens. Well, is MPFL better because they wholesale said, nope, you're not using FFS. You can keep that stuff at home. Can't even have it on your boat. You can't have a transducer. You can have the head unit that uses it, but you cannot have the transducer. As a matter of fact, I think that they even got rid of like 360. Don't quote me on that. I've read so much about it, but I know they can't have forward-facing sonar. Which is great. And I like the MLF kind of went piecemeal with it. They're like, well, we can do it here, 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 but you can't do it here and here. But I also think that they have it figured out because, guys, if I'm a pro series angler and the MLF opens, or not the MLF pro circuit, the pro tour, those guys are upper echelon. That's like the NFL. It's like the NBA. It's like the MLB. These guys are the best of this sport. I feel like that they should be able to use the best technology that they can get their hands on. Does it make the best TV? No, it does not. But I don't watch the shows, start to finish anymore, hoping to learn anything. I just like watching them catch fish, trying to see where they're fishing at, trying to pick up some of the baits and stuff they're throwing. And then, you pretty much have Bass that says, we're not going to do anything about it. I think Bass did limit the number of screen size that you can have and the number of transducers that you can have, which I think is a great deal. That makes sense because you have people that have like 4 and 5 grass up on the front of their boat in the bow, and it makes it a, like Taku Ito was talking about it this past year, that he had so much stuff on the front bow of his boat that he had to look through the bottom of his graph and the mount to see where he was going on his boat. And that, my friends, is something that scares me to death. If you can't see over your graphs, they're too big. What's up, Larry Slack? I'm sure you, I don't know if you've been on here. You guys are probably not even hearing that. So it's alive. Ah, yeah. 55 minutes. Guys, I appreciate you sticking around with this episode of On Another Line Live. If you guys would care to do me a favor, do me one favor if you don't care. If you'd like to help me out this week, go out and find a YouTube video that you enjoy and share that on your social media. I'm trying to hit 6,000 subscribers, and I am a long way away from that. I'm like 5,060 some right now. My goal for this coming year is 6,000 subscribers, and I'd like to get a jump on that. Again, a couple of things coming up. We do have the Spring Valley Tackle Swap Meet, the fishing tackle swap meet. That is January 18th, 2025. That is at Spring Valley High School, the main entrance there, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., $5 per person entry. Door prizes hourly, which you must be present to win. Vendor tables, if you'd like to go there and set up and sell some things, $10 each. They have a concession stand all day as well. One of the things that does say here, no guns, knives, or ammunition will be allowed, so please leave that stuff at home. This is not a outdoors tackle, or this is not an outdoors swap meet. This is strictly fishing. So, leave your bang sticks at your house. But with that being said, I will be there with a lot of different things. Again, going to have some, I'll probably have, 40 or 50 different types of jigs. Going to have probably close to 100 of these buzz baits, both black and white, and chartreuse and white, ghost, baby bass, you name it. I'm going to have several of them. We'll see what sells the best. I'm probably just going to knock it down to like 3 guys after that. It's just going to be, it's too hard to keep up with. Again, do have an absolute absurd amount of these 1/4 and 3/8 ounce underspin heads that will look like this. They're all white. Every one of them is white. There's no other colors. Going to have those. And again, just a quick recap. I told you guys Greg Drown used to sell these things for $4.99 a piece. Mine's going to be a little bit more expensive than that. Mine's going to be $5.50 a piece, just for the simple fact that I am adding a premium mustad hook in here, which is a lot sharper than the Eagle Claw that he used to use. So those will be available for the first time to purchase to the public there at that swap meet. So if you guys are close and you want to get out and do some good and help some kids out, check that out there. That is, again, the 18th of January. Let me make sure that is correct. That is January 18th, 2025, 8 to 4 p.m. And again, if you guys want to help me out this week, I'd appreciate if you go out there and find one of my YouTube videos that you enjoy and share that thing on your social media. It makes a huge difference to me. Jared Sloan and I were just talking about this week that we're gonna kind of do a series here soon that's going to be really fun to do. I think is we're going to take 2 to 3 boats out there, depending on if JR is going to be a part of it or not, and we're going to go over to Greenbow and see if we can't land on an absolute swamp donkey. There are some giants in there, but I think we're going to do it in a really cool way that you guys are going to enjoy. It's basically going to be a co-hosted show, but we'll have our own version of it. So you'll see his experience from his point of view on my channel, and you'll see my experience from my point of view on my channel as well. So you'll be able to see the same fishing day, 2 different point of views, 2 different anglers, and we're going to try to land on an absolute hammer. So that's going to be coming up. But other than that, guys, I appreciate you guys sticking with me for this long, almost an hour long. We got a lot of cool things coming up. I'm working on trying to get some more people on here that are much more, better to talk to and a lot more knowledgeable than myself. I'm working on trying to get, Matt Robertson. I have a fellow that I drew down up at the Potomac, Jamie. He's an awesome guy. He's going to jump on here in a couple weeks. We got a lot of cool things coming up. So again, if you guys haven't went out and subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would appreciate it. And again, if you want to help me out this week, go out and find one of those YouTube channels on my channel. Just share it out to your social media. It exponentially gets my name out there a lot more, and I appreciate it. So if you guys can, we'll see you guys next week about the same time, same bat channel. Thanks, Fred. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you, buddy. I'm sure I'll talk to you before then. But with that being said, if you guys can, get out there and lean on them. We'll see you next time on Another Line.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of On Another Line Live. We truly appreciate your support, and we couldn't do it without all the amazing folks at home watching week after week. A big thank you goes out to our sponsors, who help make this show possible. Malone's Marine, Borders Sporting Goods, Solar Bat Sunglasses, Picasso Lures, Shimano, and Columbia Sportswear. Their partnership allows us to keep bringing you the content you love. We'll see you next time on Another Line. Until then, get out there and lean on them.